It gives you so much. I mean, everything that I have now is from the sport. My husband, you know, my income, my house that I live in, and I think also it gives you. I'm a different person than what I was even 5 years ago. It gives you more confidence in yourself, I think, and being thrown in front of the camera more and more and more. I think you kind of just get used to, you know, being on show. You know, I do enjoy it. When I get closer to a race, I'm not loving being in front of people and signing autographs and taking photos. But I mean, I respect that that's part of my job as a professional athlete and an ambassador for the sport and for Ironman. And for myself, really. You know, I try to be as pleasant as possible around, you know, amateurs that, you know, they see you on TV or whatever in Kona and they get to meet you and they're super excited and all you want to do is go home and put your feet up. But when I have the time, I try and give as much as I can to everybody else, but you've got to be careful that you're not expending too much energy on everyone else when you get closer to the bigger races. So a race like this, I'm very relaxed, as you might have noticed, and these are the times where I try to take the opportunity to really spend more time with media and fans and supporters and so forth. My whole career I've come from behind. I've never been a great swimmer, solid on the bike, and the run's always been my strength. So getting off the bike with a deficit I'm no stranger to that position. Getting off the bike 14:30 down was certainly not in the race plan. And I was actually pretty negative the first couple of miles of the marathon in Kona last year. I was disappointed in myself that I didn't feel that I rode to my abilities, because the first half of the race I was very calculated and decided to ride with a group rather than try to go by myself, and which was completely different in 13. I took off by myself and did the whole race solo, and still able to run very well off the bike there. But I think 14, I took all of my experience from the past 6 years and put it into that race, but then it was still, 14:30 was still not the plan. And it wasn't until like 3 or 4 miles in that I sort of just said to myself, you know what, you've got nothing else to do today. You're in great shape, and I knew I looked after myself very well on the bike in terms of nutrition, hydration, and I just said, well, you know, you could hold this pace, see if you can run, you know, a very fast marathon and get in. My first goal was the top 5, and so that became my goal from then on, and my mind was then more positive, and I was able to sort of, you know, pick off the girls. And 5th place didn't come up until out in the Queen K, probably halfway through the race, and 5th place actually meant 3rd place, because 3rd, 4th and 5th were running together. So for me that was fantastic, going from 6th to 3rd in one foul swoop. And running past people, I think there's something to be said for passing people. It gives you that slight lift. And then, you know, 3rd place, I was like, well, that's, you know, a decent position at least. Coming in as defending champ, really anything other than winning is kind of not what you're wanting to do there. So yeah, 3rd place, and then Rachel sort of started to become vulnerable in the energy lab. I could see her running, and she wasn't too far ahead, and she became my goal. And then, yeah, 1st place up in the Queen K. So yeah, it certainly wasn't, I wasn't calculating that I could give them 14:30. Certainly I hoped to give them less than 10 minutes. And so I was quite concerned, but it turned out well for me on that day. Honestly, it is empowering, but honestly, everybody else sort of says to me, well, what are the girls going to be saying now? You know, how much time do they need to beat you? But I kind of look at it and say, they rode very well, but I believe Rachel can run under 3 hours. And I think Daniela, you know, that first time in Kona is sometimes a bit of a shock to the system. And I think she's only going to get better. So for me, I look at it and say, okay, I pulled that one off. I almost feel like I was lucky to get away with that one. So I'm certainly not thinking that I can give them 14 minutes next year or more time. I'm sort of doing everything I can to try and bring that gap down, try and get it back under 10 minutes, and see if I can run well enough to get up the front again. But for me, it's not I don't agree with the 50 women to Kona thing. I think it should just be equal numbers. I believe, you know, bringing another 15 women to Kona is going to do nothing for women in our sport other than, you know, there's equal number of spots, which I think should have been implemented in the start. I think ITU had it right when Les came in and said there'll be the same amount of women's spots as men's spots. The women in ITU racing and short course racing is flourishing. There's 65 women on every start list. The racing is competitive. And that's where we're trying to grow our sport to. And I believe that if we, you know, I'd like to see 40 men, 40 women on the start line. We're only getting, you know, prize money to the top 10. No one's getting paid to go to Kona. So I don't really understand why more women or, you know, the last 10 men or women want to be in Kona. It's an expensive trip. Unless you're going to be a factor in the race, I don't, you know, there's so many other great races. This one, there's 5 championship races, there's Roth. There's lots of fantastic races around the world where you can make a living, elevate your performance so that then you can be a contender in Kona. And I just don't understand why people want to go to Kona and make up the numbers, but maybe that's the elitist in me. Winning in 13, I sort of went back to my manager and said, Roth's a race I really want to do, let's get on that start line. And so then we went to challenge and let them know that I wanted to race, and we sorted out a contract. And that was about experiencing different races. This year I've kind of gone back to my old formula of, you know, get this qualification sorted, get it out of the way, and then focus on Kona. Last year was almost a bit of a gamble, you know, doing a Roth 3 months before Kona, never done an Ironman mid-year. It turned out well, very well, I should say, fantastically well, but I respect that that was a pretty big effort, putting forth 2 solid performances, given that I had to race Rachel and Carolyn at both races. So fantastic fields in Roth, fantastic fields in Kona. So this year I sort of decided to, you know, step back, took some time off, a good break after Kona, race here, get my qualification sorted, and then really I've got a couple of other key races, but it's all about building up to Kona.